Hello, everyone, and welcome back to English in Fluency. My name is Alex, and I am so glad you are here with me today. If this is your first time on the channel, this is the place where we take real English, the kind you actually hear on the street, on the phone, in a doctor's office, in a shop, and we break it down piece by piece so that you can understand it with confidence. And if you are already part of our community, welcome back, my friend. You already know how this works, so let's get comfortable. Get your notebook ready if you like to take notes. And let's begin. Today, we are doing something a little bit special. We are going to focus on B1 level listening. Now, if you are not sure what B1 means, let me explain it very simply. B1 is what we call an intermediate level. It means you already know the basics of English. You can introduce yourself, you can talk about your daily routine, you can ask simple questions, but when someone speaks a little bit fast, or uses a phrase you have never heard before, you start to feel lost. Does that sound familiar? If you are nodding your head right now, then this lesson is exactly for you. The problem with a lot of English listening practice is that it is too academic. It teaches you perfect grammar in a very formal way. But real life does not sound like that. Real people speak in short sentences. They use contractions. They interrupt each other. They use filler words like and you know and I mean. So today, instead of giving you another boring textbook dialogue, I am going to walk you through 10 real situations that you, as an intermediate learner, will actually face in your life. We are talking about ordering food, asking for directions, going to the doctor, doing a basic job interview, calling customer service, making small talk about the weather, shopping for clothes, making plans with friends, listening to airport announcements, and finally, talking to a landlord about renting an apartment. 10 topics, 10 real situations, and by the end of this video, you will feel so much more prepared to understand and to respond naturally. Now, I also want to explain quickly why real spoken English feels so much harder to understand than the English you studied in a classroom. Because once you understand the reason, the whole process becomes much less frustrating. The main reason is something called connected speech. This means that native speakers don't pronounce each word separately and clearly, the way a textbook recording does. Instead, words flow together, sounds get dropped, and short words almost disappear completely. For example, the phrase, "What are you going to do?" often sounds in fast natural speech, more like, "What you gonna do?" The words "want to" often blend into "wanna." Going to becomes gonna, and have to becomes hafta. This is not lazy or incorrect English. It is completely normal. Natural pronunciation used by native speakers of every background, every education level, and every profession. Let's practice hearing and saying a few of these reduced forms right now, because recognizing them instantly is one of the biggest keys to understanding real conversation. I'm going to call you later. Repeat. What do you want to do this weekend? Repeat. I have to finish this before 5. Repeat. Once your ear gets used to these natural reductions, so much of what used to sound like fast, confusing noise will start to sound like clear, understandable English. This same pattern shows up in dozens of everyday expressions. So let's practice a few more. Because the more your ear recognizes these shapes, the less scary fast speech becomes. Did you eat yet often sounds like did ya eat yet. Let's repeat it. Did ya eat yet? Repeat. What did you do this weekend often sounds like what'd ya do this weekend? Let's repeat that too. What'd ya do this weekend? Repeat. I don't know. One of the most common phrases in all of English often gets reduced to something that sounds like I don't know. Let's repeat it one more time. I don't know. Repeat. None of these reductions are slang or bad grammar. They are simply the natural music of spoken English. And learning to recognize them is like learning a secret code that unlocks real, everyday conversation. There's a second reason real listening feels difficult, and that's something called linking, which happens when the last sound of one word connects smoothly into the first sound of the next word, almost like the two words become one. For example, turn it off often sounds like turn it off, said almost as a single word, and an apple sounds like a napple. This happens constantly in natural speech, and honestly, native speakers don't even notice they're doing it, because it feels completely automatic to them. Let's practice a few linked phrases together, saying them smoothly and quickly, the way a native speaker naturally would. Turn it off. Repeat. Pick it up. Repeat. Check it out. Repeat. Excellent. The more you practice saying these phrases quickly and smoothly yourself, the easier it becomes to recognize them when you hear other people say them. Before we jump in, let me give you a quick tip on how to use this video. I want you to listen first without pausing, just to get the general feeling of the conversation. Then, when I give you the practice phrases, I want you to say them out loud, even if you are alone in your room right now. Speaking out loud, even when nobody is listening, trains your mouth and your brain together. And this is one of the fastest ways to improve both your listening and your speaking at the same time. So, whenever I give you a phrase to repeat, please actually repeat it. Do not just read it in your head. Say it with your voice. Okay? Let's start with our first topic. Our first real topic is ordering food at a restaurant. This might seem simple, but there are so many small expressions that can confuse an intermediate learner the first time they hear them. Let's imagine you walk into a restaurant. A server. That is the word we use in American English for a waiter or a waitress. A server comes to your table and says, "Hi there. Welcome in. Are you ready to order? Or do you need a few more minutes?" Now here is the first tricky part. Welcome in is a very casual, very common way to greet a customer in the United States. It does not mean anything special beyond a friendly hello. And when the server asks, "Are you ready to order?" this is your chance to either order right away or say, "Could we get a few more minutes? Please?" Let's practice that phrase together. Could we get a few more minutes? Please? Repeat. Good. Let's continue the conversation. Imagine you are ready to order. The server might ask, "What can I get started for you?" This phrase, "What can I get started for you?" simply means, "What would you like to order first?" Usually referring to a drink or an appetizer. You might respond with something like, "Can I get a glass of water and the chicken sandwich? Please?" Notice how natural speakers often say, "Can I get?" instead of "I would like." Both are correct, but "can I get?" is much more common in casual, spoken English. Let's repeat that phrase. Can I get the chicken sandwich? Please? Repeat. Perfect. Now, here is something that confuses a lot of learners. The server might ask a follow-up question like, how would you like that cooked? If you order meat? Or what side would you like with that? A side, in this context, means a small dish that comes with your main meal, like fries, a salad, or vegetables. So if someone asks you, what side would you like? They are not asking about a direction. They are asking about a small extra dish. You could answer, I'll have the fries, please. Let's repeat. I'll have the fries, please. Repeat. Excellent. Sometimes, near the end of the meal, the server will come back and ask, how is everything tasting so far? This is simply a polite check-in question. You can answer with something short, like, everything is great, thank you. Or if there is a problem, you might say, actually, this is a bit too salty for me. Let's practice a polite complaint. Excuse me. This is a bit too salty for me. Repeat. Very good. Being able to say this politely is such an important real-life skill. Because in daily life, you will sometimes need to express that something is not quite right, and doing it politely. Using words like a bit or a little makes you sound much more natural and much less rude than simply saying, this is bad. Finally, at the end of the meal, you will hear one of the most common restaurant phrases in English. Would you like the check? Or can I get you anything else? The word check here means the bill, the piece of paper that tells you how much you need to pay. In American English, we say check, while in British English, people usually say bill. You could respond, just the check, please, or could we get the check, please? Let's repeat that one more time, because it is extremely useful. Could we get the check, please? Repeat. Wonderful. There's one more restaurant situation I want to prepare you for, because it happens more often than you might think. And that's when there's a mistake with your order. Imagine the server brings you the wrong dish. You don't want to be rude, but you also need to explain the problem clearly. A natural, polite way to handle this would be, I'm sorry, I think there's been a mix-up. I actually ordered the grilled chicken, not the fried chicken. The phrase mix-up means a small mistake or confusion, and it's a much softer, friendlier way to point out an error than saying, you made a mistake. Let's repeat this useful phrase. I think there's been a mix-up. I actually ordered the grilled chicken. Repeat. The server will usually respond with something like, oh, I'm so sorry about that. Let me get that fixed for you right away. And the phrase, get that fixed, simply means to correct the problem. Let's repeat this reassuring response too, so you recognize it immediately when you hear it. Let me get that fixed for you right away. Repeat. It's also worth knowing how to split a bill, which happens all the time when you're eating with friends or co-workers. You might hear someone ask the table, should we just split it evenly? Or does everyone want to pay for what they got? The phrase, split it evenly, means everyone pays the same amount, regardless of what they individually ordered. While pay for what they got means everyone pays only for their own dish. Let's repeat both options. Should we just split it evenly? Repeat. Let's just pay for what we got. Repeat. And often, When the server comes to collect payment from a group, they might ask, "Would you like this on one check or separate checks?" Let's repeat this final useful restaurant phrase. Could we get separate checks? Please? Repeat. Now you have a full mental map of a real restaurant conversation, from the first hello to the final payment. And you understand not just the words, but the natural rhythm and the casual expressions that native speakers actually use every single day. Let's move on to our second real topic, which is asking for and understanding directions. This is a situation that every traveler and even every new resident in a city will face sooner or later. Imagine you are standing on a street corner, a little lost, and you decide to ask a stranger for help. You might start with a polite opener like, "Excuse me, could you help me find the train station?" Notice the structure here. "Could you help me find," which is much softer and more polite than simply saying, "Where is the train station?" Let's practice this polite opener together. "Excuse me, could you help me find the train station?" Repeat. Great. Now, here comes the tricky part for listening. Because the native speaker's answer often comes very fast and full of directional words. They might say something like, "Sure. So you're going to go straight down this street for about 2 blocks, and then you'll see a big intersection. Take a right there, and the station will be on your left, right next to the coffee shop." That is a lot of information in just a few seconds. Right? So let's slow it down and break apart the important vocabulary. The word block refers to a section of a street between 2 intersections. So, 2 blocks means you walk past 2 street corners. Take a right or take a left means to turn in that direction. And on your left or on your right tells you the exact side where you will find the place. Let's repeat some of these key chunks. Go straight for 2 blocks. Repeat. Take a right at the intersection. Repeat. It'll be on your left. Repeat. Fantastic. Now, these phrases should start to feel familiar in your ear. Sometimes, instead of blocks, people give directions using landmarks, which are well-known places like a bank, a church, a park, or a big store. You might hear something like, "Just keep going until you pass the bank, and then it's right across from the park." The phrase, "right across from," means directly on the opposite side. Let's practice. It's right across from the park. Repeat. Very nice. Now, what happens if you don't understand the directions the first time? This happens to everyone, even advanced learners, because directions often include a lot of fast, connected speech. The most useful skill here is not to panic, but to ask a clarifying question. You could say, "I'm sorry, could you say that again a little slower?" Or, "So, do I turn right or left at the light?" The word light here is short for traffic light. Let's repeat these 2 very useful clarifying questions. Could you say that again, a little slower? Repeat. Do I turn right or left at the light? Repeat. These 2 questions alone can save you in almost any confusing listening situation. Not just with directions, but in any real conversation where you feel lost. One more thing I want you to notice about direction giving in real English is the use of what we call sequencing words. Words that help organize the steps in order. Native speakers often use words like first, then, after that, and finally to organize their directions. For example, first, go straight for 1 block. Then, turn left at the pharmacy. After that, you'll see the building right in front of you. These sequencing words are like signposts inside the sentence, helping your brain understand the order of actions. Once you start listening for these small organizing words, understanding long-spoken instructions becomes so much easier, not just for directions, but for recipes, instructions at work, or even instructions during a video call. One more listening trap in this topic is understanding numbered addresses and street names spoken quickly, since numbers often get mumbled or rushed in casual speech. If someone says, "It's at 422 Baker Street, on the second floor," try to catch the number in small chunks rather than all at once. 422. Almost like two separate mini-numbers rather than one long one. Since that's usually how native speakers naturally group and say addresses out loud, let's repeat this kind of address together. Practicing that natural grouping, 422 Baker Street, second floor. Repeat. And if you miss it, don't panic. Just ask naturally. Sorry. Was that 422 or 42? Let's repeat this clarifying question, since numbers are one of the easiest things to mishear in fast speech. Sorry. Was that 422 or 42? Repeat. Let's also think about what happens when you're the one giving directions, because this is a listening topic too. Since you need to understand the question first, before you can answer it well. Imagine a tourist stops you and asks, "Sorry to bother you, but do you know if there's a pharmacy nearby?" The phrase, "sorry to bother you," is a very polite way to interrupt a stranger, and nearby simply means close by, in the area. You might answer, "Actually, yes. There's one just around the corner, next to the bakery." The phrase, "just around the corner," is an extremely common idiom meaning something is very close, only a short walk away. Let's repeat this useful idiom. There's a pharmacy just around the corner. Repeat. And sometimes, honestly, you won't know the answer, and that's completely fine too. A natural, friendly response would be, "I'm sorry. I'm actually not from around here. You might want to try asking someone at that shop over there." The phrase, "not from around here," is a common way to explain that you are also unfamiliar with the local area. Let's repeat this useful phrase as well. I'm sorry. I'm not from around here. Repeat. So our second topic gives you both practical travel vocabulary and a listening strategy you can use in many other real-life situations. Let's move to our third topic now, which is a doctor's appointment. This is a topic that many learners feel nervous about, because health-related vocabulary can feel very technical. And honestly, this is a situation where understanding correctly really matters. Let's imagine you walk into a doctor's office for a regular appointment. First, a receptionist might greet you and ask, "Do you have an appointment, or are you a walk-in?" A walk-in means someone who comes without booking an appointment in advance. You might answer, "Yes, I have an appointment at 3 o'clock," or, "No, I'm a walk-in. Is that okay?" Let's repeat. I have an appointment at 3 o'clock. Repeat. Good. Once you are with the doctor or the nurse, the questions usually start with something simple like, "So, what brings you in today?" This phrase, "What brings you in today?" is simply a polite, natural way of asking, "What is your problem?" or "Why are you here?" You might answer with something like, I've had a sore throat for the past 3 days, or I've been feeling really tired lately. Notice the use of the present perfect tense here. I've had and I've been feeling, which is very common when describing symptoms that started in the past and are still continuing now. Let's repeat two useful symptom descriptions. I've had a sore throat for the past 3 days. Repeat. I've been feeling really tired lately. Repeat. Excellent work. The doctor might then ask some follow-up questions, like, does it hurt when you swallow? Or, have you taken anything for the pain? The word swallow refers to the action of moving food or liquid down your throat. If you have not taken any medicine, you could answer, no, I haven't taken anything yet. And if you have, you could say, I took some paracetamol this morning, but it didn't really help. Let's practice these two useful answers. I haven't taken anything yet. Repeat. I took some paracetamol this morning, but it didn't really help. Repeat. Very good. Now, here is something extremely important for real-life listening. Understanding the doctor's instructions at the end of the appointment. Doctors often speak quickly because they see many patients every day, and their instructions usually include dosage information, which means how much medicine and how often to take it. You might hear something like, I'm going to prescribe you some antibiotics. Take 1 pill twice a day, with food, for 7 days. If you're not feeling better by Friday, come back and see me. Let's break this down slowly. Twice a day means 2 times a day. With food means you should eat something when you take the medicine. And come back and see me is a polite, natural way of saying return for another appointment. Let's repeat these key phrases together, because understanding medical instructions correctly can genuinely affect your health. Take 1 pill twice a day. With food, repeat. If you're not feeling better, come back and see me. Repeat. Wonderful. Finally, if you don't fully understand something the doctor said, it is completely okay, and honestly, very smart, to ask for clarification. You could say, sorry, could you repeat that? I want to make sure I understood correctly. Or, so just to confirm, I take 1 pill in the morning and 1 at night? This second phrase, using just to confirm, is a fantastic strategy in general English, not only for doctor visits, because it allows you to repeat back what you understood, giving the other person a chance to correct you if you misunderstood something. Let's practice this powerful confirming phrase one more time. Just to confirm, I take 1 pill in the morning and 1 at night. Repeat. This single strategy, confirming what you heard, will help you in job interviews, in meetings, at the bank, honestly, in almost every important conversation in your life. So please don't underestimate how useful this small phrase really is. I also want to prepare you for a slightly different kind of doctor visit. A follow-up appointment. Because the vocabulary shifts a little bit here. Imagine you're going back to the doctor after finishing a round of medicine. The doctor might start by asking, so, how have you been feeling since we last saw you? Any improvement? The word improvement simply means positive change. Getting better? You might answer, yes, actually, I've been feeling a lot better. The sore throat is pretty much gone. Or, if things haven't improved, honestly, not much has changed. I still feel pretty much the same. Let's repeat both of these useful follow-up responses. I've been feeling a lot better. The sore throat is pretty much gone. Repeat. Not much has changed. I still feel pretty much the same. Repeat. Depending on your answer, the doctor might say something like, "Okay, that's completely normal. Let's give it a few more days." Or, "If there's no improvement at all." In that case, I think we should run some further tests, just to be safe. The phrase, "just to be safe," is extremely common in medical and everyday English, and it means as a precaution, even if the doctor doesn't think it's serious. Let's repeat this reassuring but important phrase. Let's run some further tests, just to be safe. Repeat. Our fourth real topic today is a basic job interview. Even if you are not currently job hunting, understanding interview English is incredibly useful because the structure and vocabulary also appear in many professional and academic situations. Let's imagine you walk into an interview room and the interviewer starts with a warm, friendly opener. Something like, "Thanks so much for coming in today. Why don't you start by telling me a little about yourself?" This request, "Tell me a little about yourself," is probably the single most common opening question in English-speaking interviews around the world. It is not asking for your entire life story. It is asking for a short, professional summary, usually about your background, your experience, and why you are interested in this role. A good short answer might sound like, "Sure. So I studied business administration, and for the past 2 years, I've been working as a marketing assistant at a small company." Let's repeat that structure. I studied business administration, and for the past 2 years, I've been working as a marketing assistant. Repeat. Great job. The interviewer will often continue with a question like, "What would you say is your biggest strength?" Or, "Where do you see yourself in 5 years?" These are extremely common interview questions in English-speaking countries, and understanding them quickly, without needing translation, will make you feel so much more confident. A strong, natural answer to the strength question could be, "I'd say my biggest strength is that I'm really good at solving problems under pressure." Let's repeat this useful sentence structure. I'd say my biggest strength is that I'm really good at solving problems under pressure. Repeat. Very nice. Now, here is a listening challenge that surprises a lot of intermediate learners. Understanding indirect or softened questions. Native English speakers, especially in professional settings, often soften their questions to sound more polite. Instead of directly asking, "Why did you leave your last job?" an interviewer might say, "Would you mind sharing what led you to look for a new opportunity?" The phrase, "what led you to," simply means, "Why did you decide to," but it sounds much gentler and more indirect. Let's repeat this softened question so your ear gets used to this pattern. What led you to look for a new opportunity? Repeat. Excellent. At the end of most interviews, you will almost always hear the question, "Do you have any questions for us?" This is actually a very important moment because in English-speaking professional culture, saying "no, not really" can sometimes come across as uninterested. A better response might be, "Yes, actually, I was wondering, what does a typical day look like in this role?" The phrase "I was wondering" is a soft, polite way to introduce a question. And "what does a typical day look like" is one of the most useful, Natural questions you can ask in any interview. Let's repeat both of these together. I was wondering, what does a typical day look like in this role? Repeat. Perfect. Interviews can feel intimidating in your own language, let alone in English. But once your ear becomes familiar with these common questions and softened phrases, you will find that real interviews feel much more predictable and manageable than you expected. Let's also cover a moment that catches a lot of learners off guard. Salary discussions. Many interviewers will ask something like, "What are your salary expectations for this role?" This question can feel intimidating, but there's a very natural, safe way to answer it, even if you're not sure the exact number. Something like, "I'm honestly flexible, but based on my research, I was thinking somewhere in the range of 45 to 50,000. The phrase "in the range of" is extremely useful whenever you need to give an approximate number rather than an exact one, and you'll hear it used constantly, not only in interviews, but when discussing prices, budgets, and even ages. Let's repeat this useful structure. I was thinking somewhere in the range of 45 to 50,000. Repeat. And near the very end of the interview, you'll often hear a closing phrase like, "It was great speaking with you. We'll be in touch within the next week or so." The phrase, "we'll be in touch," simply means, "we will contact you again soon." And it's used constantly at the end of professional conversations. Let's repeat this closing phrase one final time. It was great speaking with you. We'll be in touch soon. Repeat. Let's move on to our fifth topic, which is making a phone call to customer service. I know. Phone calls in a foreign language can feel scary because you cannot see the other person's face or body language. You can only rely on your ears. But don't worry. Customer service calls actually follow a very predictable pattern once you learn it. And today, I'm going to show you exactly what that pattern looks like. Usually, the call begins with an automated recording, a computer voice, saying something like, "Thank you for calling. Your call is important to us. Please stay on the line, and a representative will be with you shortly." The phrase "stay on the line" simply means don't hang up, keep waiting. And a representative refers to the human customer service agent who will eventually answer. Let's repeat this common phrase. Please stay on the line. A representative will be with you shortly. Repeat. Good. When a real person finally answers, they usually start with something like, "Hi, thank you for calling. My name is Jordan. How can I help you today?" A natural, clear response could be, "Hi, Jordan. I'm calling because I have a problem with my recent order." Let's practice this opening sentence, because it works for almost any customer service situation. I'm calling because I have a problem with my recent order. Repeat. Very good. Now, here is where real listening skill becomes important, because the representative will often ask for identifying information quickly, one question after another. You might hear something like, "Okay, no problem. Can I get your full name, please? And could you confirm the email address on the account?" Great. And do you have the order number handy? The phrase "handy" here means available, close to you, ready to use. So if someone asks, "Do you have that handy?" they are asking if you have that information ready right now. If you don't, you could say, "Actually, I don't have it handy right now. Is there another way you can look it up? Let's repeat this useful phrase. I don't have it handy right now. Repeat. Excellent. Sometimes, especially with technical problems, the representative might say something like, I'm really sorry about the inconvenience. Let me just pull up your account and take a look. The phrase pull up here means to open or access on a computer screen. So, pull up your account simply means the representative is opening your account information on their computer. This is a very common phrase in any customer service context, whether it's on the phone, in a bank, or even at a doctor's office. Let's repeat it together. Let me pull up your account and take a look. Repeat. Great. Finally, at the end of most customer service calls, you will hear a closing phrase like, Is there anything else I can help you with today? And if everything is solved, you can respond simply, No, that's everything. Thank you so much for your help. Let's repeat this natural closing exchange. Is there anything else I can help you with today? Repeat. No, that's everything. Thank you so much for your help. Repeat. And with that, you now understand the full shape of a customer service call. From the automated recording at the beginning to the polite closing at the end. And honestly, once you recognize this pattern, these calls become so much less intimidating because you already know roughly what is coming next. Let's also prepare for a slightly more frustrating version of this call, one where you need to ask to speak with a manager or a supervisor, because sometimes a regular representative simply cannot solve your problem. A polite but firm way to ask for this would be, I understand, but would it be possible to speak with a supervisor about this? The phrase, would it be possible, is a very polite, professional way to make a request, softer than simply saying, I want to speak to your manager. Let's repeat this useful phrase. Would it be possible to speak with a supervisor about this? Repeat. The representative might respond, Of course. One moment, please. I'll transfer you now. And the word transfer here means to connect your call to a different person or department. Let's repeat this final phrase. One moment, please. I'll transfer you now. Repeat. Understanding this small addition to the pattern means that even when a phone call becomes a little more complicated or frustrating, you'll still know exactly what's happening and what to say next. Our sixth topic today might seem small, but it is honestly one of the most common types of conversation in English-speaking cultures, and that is small talk about the weather. In many countries, weather small talk feels unnecessary. But in English-speaking countries, especially in the United States, the United Kingdom, Canada, and Australia, talking about the weather is a very normal, very common way to start a conversation. Whether you're waiting for an elevator, standing in line at a shop, or just passing a neighbor on the street. Let's imagine you're waiting for a bus, and a stranger next to you says, Can you believe this weather? It's been raining non-stop for days. The phrase, Can you believe this weather, doesn't require a deep answer. It's simply a friendly conversation starter. A natural response might be, I know, right? I heard it's supposed to clear up by the weekend, though. Let's repeat this exchange. Can you believe this weather? Repeat. I heard it's supposed to clear up by the weekend. Repeat. Great job. Notice the phrase supposed to. which is extremely common in spoken English and means expected to, or according to what people say. So, it's supposed to rain tomorrow means the forecast says it will probably rain tomorrow. This phrase appears constantly in casual conversation, not only about weather, but about plans, expectations, and predictions in general. Let's repeat a few more examples with this useful phrase. It's supposed to be really hot this weekend. Repeat. The meeting is supposed to start at 9. Repeat. Wonderful. Now you can use supposed to in many different situations, not just about the weather. Weather small talk often continues with simple comments and questions. Like, did you bring an umbrella? I completely forgot mine. Or, this heat is unbearable, isn't it? The word unbearable means something so extreme, in this case so hot, that it becomes very difficult to tolerate. Let's practice this useful word. This heat is unbearable, isn't it? Repeat. Notice also that little question at the end. Isn't it? Which is called a tag question in English grammar. Tag questions are short questions added to the end of a statement, and they are extremely common in natural spoken English because they invite the other person to agree or respond, keeping the conversation flowing naturally. You'll hear tag questions constantly in real conversations. Things like, it's cold today, isn't it? Or, you're new here, aren't you? Or, that wasn't too bad, was it? Let's repeat a few of these together, because recognizing tag questions instantly will massively improve your listening comprehension in everyday conversation. It's cold today, isn't it? Repeat. You're new here, aren't you? Repeat. That wasn't too bad, was it? Repeat. Fantastic. Weather talk might seem like a small topic, but it teaches you two incredibly useful listening skills at once: casual conversation starters and tag questions, both of which appear constantly throughout everyday spoken English, in dozens of different contexts beyond just the weather. Weather small talk also often connects naturally to talking about plans and activities. So, let's extend the conversation a little further. Imagine your coworker says, "Ugh, I really hope it doesn't rain this weekend. I was planning on going hiking." The interjection, "ugh," expresses mild frustration or disappointment, and you'll hear it constantly in casual spoken English, even though it's rarely written formally. A natural response might be, "Same here. I checked the forecast, and it actually looks pretty promising for Saturday." The word forecast refers specifically to the weather prediction, and promising here means it looks likely to be good. Let's repeat both of these useful phrases. I checked the forecast, and it looks pretty promising for Saturday. Repeat. And sometimes, weather small talk leads into a friendly warning. Something like, just so you know, they're saying it might snow later, so you might want to grab a heavier jacket. The phrase, just so you know, is a soft, friendly way to share useful information, almost like a gentle heads up. Let's repeat this useful conversational phrase, just so you know, it might snow later. Repeat. These small phrases might seem minor individually, but together, they make up a huge portion of the friendly, casual English you'll hear every single day. Whether you're at work, in a shop, or just walking down the street. Let's move to our 7th real topic, shopping for clothes. Imagine you walk into a clothing store, and almost immediately, An employee approaches you and says, "Hi there, let me know if you need any help finding anything." This is a very standard, polite greeting in retail environments across English-speaking countries, and it does not require a detailed response. A simple, "Thank you," "I will," or "I'm just browsing for now," "Thanks," works perfectly. The word browsing means looking around casually without a specific plan to buy something right away. Let's repeat this useful response. "I'm just browsing for now." Thanks. Repeat. Great. Now, let's say you find a shirt you like, but you're not sure about the size. You might approach an employee and ask, "Excuse me, do you have this in a medium?" Or, "Do you know if this comes in other colors?" Let's repeat both of these very practical shopping questions. Do you have this in a medium? Repeat. Does this come in other colors? Repeat. Very good. The employee might respond with something like, "Let me check in the back for you," meaning they will go, "Look in the storage area behind the shop floor." Or they might say, "I'm sorry, this is actually the last one we have in that size." Let's repeat this common phrase you might hear. This is the last one we have in that size. Repeat. Good. Once you decide to try something on, you'll usually ask, "Where are the fitting rooms?" In American English, we say fitting room, while in British English, people more often say changing room. Let's repeat this useful phrase. Where are the fitting rooms? Repeat. After trying the clothes on, an employee might check on you by asking, "How's everything fitting?" Which simply means, does the clothing fit you well? If it fits well, you might say, "This fits perfectly. I'll take it." If not, you could say, "This is a bit too tight. Do you have a bigger size?" Let's practice both responses. This fits perfectly. I'll take it. Repeat. This is a bit too tight. Do you have a bigger size? Repeat. Excellent work. Finally, at the checkout counter, which is where you pay, the cashier might ask, "Will that be cash or card? Or do you have a rewards card with us?" The phrase rewards card refers to a loyalty program card that gives customers points or discounts. If you don't have one, you can simply say, "No, I don't. But thanks for asking." And if the cashier offers you a receipt, you might hear, "Would you like your receipt in the bag, or would you like it in your hand?" Let's repeat the most useful checkout phrase of all. Will that be cash or card? Repeat. I'll pay with card. Please. Repeat. There's one more shopping situation worth preparing for, and that's returning or exchanging an item, which happens more often than you'd think. Imagine you bought a jacket last week, but it doesn't fit quite right, and you want to bring it back. You might approach the return counter and say, "Hi, I'd like to return this. I have the receipt right here." The word receipt refers to the small piece of paper, or sometimes a digital copy, that proves you paid for the item. Let's repeat this useful phrase. I'd like to return this. I have the receipt right here. Repeat. The employee might ask, "Would you like a refund, or would you prefer store credit?" The word refund means getting your money back, while store credit means the value is given back to you as credit to spend in that same store later, rather than actual cash. Let's repeat both of these important words. I'd like a refund. Please. Repeat. Actually, store credit works fine for me. Repeat. And if there's ever a problem, like a missing receipt, you might hear something like, "I'm sorry. Without a receipt, The best I can offer is store credit at the current price. Let's repeat this final useful phrase, since return policies come up so often in everyday life. Without a receipt, the best I can offer is store credit. Repeat, and there you go. A complete shopping experience from entering the store to leaving with your bag. And now every part of that conversation should feel much more familiar to your ear. Our eighth topic is making plans with friends, which might sound simple, but actually contains some of the trickiest listening challenges in casual English, mostly because friends speak very fast, very informally, and often use a lot of shortened phrases. Let's imagine your friend calls you and says, "Hey, so a few of us are thinking about grabbing dinner this Friday. Are you free?" The phrase grabbing dinner is an extremely common casual way of saying going to eat dinner together. And grab, in this context, does not mean physically grabbing something. It simply means to casually get or have something, like grab a coffee or grab a seat. Let's repeat this useful casual phrase. A few of us are thinking about grabbing dinner. Are you free? Repeat. Great. If you are free, you might respond, "Yeah, I'm down. What time were you thinking?" The phrase "I'm down" is very casual slang, meaning "I agree" or "I'm interested. Count me in." This phrase is extremely common among younger English speakers and in casual friend groups, though it's worth knowing that it wouldn't be appropriate in a formal or professional setting. Let's repeat it anyway, since understanding it is important even if you choose not to use it yourself. Yeah, I'm down. What time were you thinking? Repeat. If you're not free, you might say instead, "I wish I could, but I already have plans that night. Maybe next time." Let's repeat this polite way of declining an invitation. I wish I could, but I already have plans that night. Repeat. Wonderful. Making plans often involves negotiating details, like time and place. And this is where a lot of fast, connected speech happens. You might hear something like, let's say around 7. There's this new Italian place downtown that everyone's been talking about. The word downtown refers to the central area of a city, and the phrase everyone's been talking about means the place has become popular recently, through word of mouth. Let's repeat this natural sentence. There's this new Italian place downtown that everyone's been talking about. Repeat. Very nice. Plans often change at the last minute, too. And understanding these changes is a crucial, real-life listening skill. Your friend might text or call and say, "Hey, so, slight change of plans. Can we push it back to 7:30 instead?" The phrase push it back means to delay something to a later time. And slight change of plans is a soft, friendly way to announce that something small has changed. Let's repeat this useful phrase. Can we push it back to 7:30 instead? Repeat. And if you need to cancel completely, a common, polite way to do it is, "I'm so sorry, but something came up. Can we reschedule for another time?" The phrase, "something came up," is a very common, slightly vague way of explaining that an unexpected situation happened. Without needing to give all the details, let's repeat this final phrase because it's incredibly useful in real social situations. "I'm so sorry, but something came up. Can we reschedule?" Repeat. Excellent work. Now you have the full vocabulary toolkit for making, changing, and even canceling plans with friends, using natural, casual English. Let's also cover the moment right before a get-together, when friends are coordinating the small final details, because this is where a lot of quick, casual English happens. You might get a message or call saying, "Hey, we're all meeting up at my place first before heading out." Does that work? The phrase meeting up simply means gathering together, and heading out means leaving to go somewhere else. Let's repeat this useful phrase. We're all meeting up at my place first before heading out. Repeat. You might respond, "Sounds good. Should I bring anything?" Which is a very natural, polite question in social situations, especially when visiting someone's home. Let's repeat it. Sounds good. Should I bring anything? Repeat. And sometimes, when everyone is trying to leave together, someone might say, "Is everyone ready? Let's get going. We don't want to be late." The phrase, "let's get going," is a common, friendly way to encourage a group to start moving. And "don't want to be late" uses that natural reduction of "want to" we talked about earlier. Let's repeat this final phrase together. Let's get going. We don't want to be late. Repeat. Our ninth topic is airport and travel announcements, which many learners find genuinely difficult because these announcements are often played over loudspeakers with background noise, spoken quickly, and full of specific vocabulary you don't hear anywhere else. Let's start with a boarding announcement, which you'll hear before getting on a plane. It usually sounds something like, "Attention passengers, Flight 222 to Chicago is now boarding at Gate 14. Passengers with small children or those needing extra assistance are welcome to board first." The word gate refers to the specific door or area in the airport where you board your plane. And boarding means the process of getting onto the plane. Let's repeat this important sentence structure. Flight 222 to Chicago is now boarding at Gate 14. Repeat. Good. Sometimes announcements include specific instructions based on your ticket type, like, "We will begin boarding with our first-class passengers, followed by passengers in zones 1 and 2. The word zone here refers to a numbered group, usually based on your seat location or ticket type. That tells you when it's your turn to board. Let's repeat this phrase. We will begin boarding with first-class passengers, followed by zones 1 and 2. Repeat. Very good. Unfortunately, not every announcement is good news, and understanding delay or cancellation announcements is honestly one of the most important listening skills for real travel. You might hear something like, "We regret to inform you that Flight 315 has been delayed due to weather conditions. We apologize for any inconvenience, and we will provide updates as soon as they become available." The phrase, "we regret to inform you," is a very formal way of announcing bad news, and "due to" means because of. Let's repeat these two useful formal phrases. We regret to inform you that the flight has been delayed. Repeat. The delay is due to weather conditions. Repeat. Excellent. Understanding these phrases quickly, without panicking, can genuinely help you make faster decisions during real travel situations, like deciding whether to rebook a connecting flight. Airport announcements also include important safety and security phrases, especially around security checkpoints. You might hear, "Please have your boarding pass and identification ready for inspection," or "Unattended baggage will be removed, and may be subject to further inspection. The word unattended means left alone, without a person watching it. And this is a serious safety phrase used specifically in airports and public transportation to discourage leaving bags unwatched. Let's repeat this phrase carefully. Unattended baggage will be removed and may be subject to inspection. Repeat. Great work. Finally, let's talk about the calmer, more welcoming announcements you'll hear once you land. Things like, "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Miami. Local time is currently 4:15 in the afternoon, and the temperature outside is a pleasant 78 degrees. On behalf of the entire crew, thank you for flying with us today." Let's repeat this warm, welcoming closing phrase, since you'll hear something very similar to it on almost every flight in an English-speaking country. On behalf of the entire crew, thank you for flying with us today. Repeat. And now, whether it's boarding, a frustrating delay, a security instruction, or a warm welcome message, airport announcements should sound much less like confusing noise and much more like clear, structured English that you can actually follow, step by step. Let's also prepare for one more common airport moment, dealing with lost luggage. Because, unfortunately, this happens to travelers more often than anyone would like. If your bag doesn't arrive, you'll need to visit what's called the baggage claim office and explain the situation to an airline employee. You might say, "Hi, I can't seem to find my luggage. I think it might have been lost." The phrase "I can't seem to find" is a soft, natural way to express that something is missing, without immediately assuming the worst. Let's repeat this useful phrase. "I can't seem to find my luggage. I think it might have been lost." Repeat. The employee will usually ask for your baggage claim ticket, which is a small sticker or slip given to you when you checked your bag, and might say, "Don't worry, this happens sometimes. Let's file a report, and we'll have it delivered to your address once we locate it." The phrase, "file a report," means to officially document the problem, and "locate it" simply means to find it. Let's repeat this reassuring, useful phrase. Let's file a report, and we'll have it delivered once we locate it. Repeat. Knowing this vocabulary in advance means that even a stressful situation like lost luggage becomes something you can handle calmly and clearly. Our 10th and final real topic today is talking to a landlord about renting an apartment, which is such an important skill for anyone planning to live, study, or work in an English-speaking country. Let's imagine you're calling a landlord about an apartment you saw advertised online. You might start the conversation with, "Hi, I'm calling about the apartment listing on Maple Street. Is it still available?" The word listing refers to an advertisement, usually online, describing a property for rent or sale. Let's repeat this useful opening line. I'm calling about the apartment listing. Is it still available? Repeat. Good. If the apartment is available, the landlord might respond with something like, "Yes, it's still available. Are you looking to move in right away? Or are you thinking further down the line?" The phrase, "further down the line," means at a later time in the future, not immediately. You could respond, "I'm hoping to move in within the next month," or "I'm still just exploring my options for now." Let's repeat both of these. I'm hoping to move in within the next month. Repeat. I'm still just exploring my options for now. Repeat. Very good. At this point, the landlord will often explain the basic terms of the rental. And this is where careful listening really matters. Because it involves money and legal commitments, you might hear something like, "So, the rent is $1,500 a month. That includes water, but not electricity or internet. We also require a security deposit equal to 1 month's rent." The word deposit refers to a sum of money paid in advance, which is usually returned to you later if there is no damage to the apartment when you move out. Let's repeat these important financial phrases. The rent is $1,500 a month. Repeat. We require a security deposit equal to 1 month's rent. Repeat. Excellent. This vocabulary is genuinely essential, because misunderstanding rental terms can lead to real financial confusion. The landlord might also explain the lease, which is the legal contract for renting, by saying something like, "The lease is for 12 months, and if you'd like to see the place in person, I'm free this Thursday or Saturday afternoon." A natural way to respond and confirm a viewing appointment might be, "Saturday afternoon works great for me. What time were you thinking?" Let's repeat this useful confirming phrase. Saturday afternoon works great for me. Repeat. Very nice. Finally, once you've seen the apartment and decided you want it, you'll need to understand the next steps, which the landlord will usually explain clearly. Something like, "Great. I'll just need you to fill out an application. And we'll also need to run a quick background check that usually takes about 2 to 3 business days." The phrase background check refers to a process where the landlord verifies your identity, your employment, and sometimes your financial history. And business days refers only to weekdays, not including weekends. Let's repeat this final important phrase. We'll need to run a background check. It usually takes 2 to 3 business days. Repeat. Wonderful. And with that, you now have a complete, realistic understanding of an apartment rental conversation. From that very first phone call, all the way through the financial terms, the viewing appointment, and the final application process. Let's also briefly cover what happens once you're actually living in the apartment. Because renting vocabulary doesn't stop after you move in, and issues with maintenance are extremely common. Imagine something breaks, like the kitchen sink, and you need to contact your landlord. You might write or say, "Hi, sorry to bother you, but the sink in the kitchen seems to be leaking. Would it be possible to get someone to take a look?" The word leaking means water is escaping from somewhere it shouldn't, and the phrase "take a look" simply means to come and examine the problem. Let's repeat this useful maintenance request. The sink in the kitchen seems to be leaking. Would it be possible to get someone to take a look? Repeat. The landlord might respond, "Thanks for letting me know. I'll send a plumber over sometime this week." The word plumber refers to a professional who repairs pipes, sinks, and other water-related systems. And the phrase "send someone over" means to arrange for a person to come to your location. Let's repeat this final phrase. I'll send a plumber over sometime this week. Repeat. Understanding this kind of everyday, practical vocabulary means that living independently in an English-speaking country feels far less overwhelming. Because you already know how to describe problems clearly and understand the solutions being offered to you. Before we wrap up, I want to give you a bonus section, because I think this might actually be the most valuable part of today's lesson. I want to talk about how to practice listening in a way that actually works, because so many learners spend hours and hours watching English content without really improving. And it's usually not because they're not trying hard enough, it's because they're using the wrong method. So let me walk you through a simple, effective system you can start using today, with any of the 10 topics we just covered, or honestly, with any English content you find online. The first step is what I call active first listening. This means the very first time you listen to something, whether it's this video or any other English audio, don't try to understand every single word. Instead, just try to catch the general topic and the general feeling of the conversation. Are the people happy, frustrated, confused, excited? What is the conversation generally about? This first listen builds what we call top-down listening, which means using the big picture to help you understand the smaller details later. A lot of learners make the mistake of stopping the audio every 3 seconds to look up a word. And honestly, this actually damages your listening skill in the long run, because real conversations don't pause for you. And training your brain to expect constant pauses makes real-world listening feel even more overwhelming. The second step is targeted second listening. And this is where you allow yourself to pause, rewind, and focus on the details. During this listen, you're trying to catch specific vocabulary, specific phrases, and specific grammar structures. This is exactly the kind of listening we did together today. Breaking apart phrases like supposed to, I'm down, or just to confirm. During this stage, I really recommend writing down phrases that are new to you, not just single words, but full chunks of language. Because in real English, words are rarely used alone. They're used in these natural combinations we've been practicing. The third step, and honestly, the step that most learners skip, is active repetition, which is exactly what we've been doing throughout this entire video with our repeat practice moments. I cannot stress this enough. Saying a phrase out loud, even quietly, even just once, creates a completely different kind of memory than simply reading it silently. This is because speaking activates what's called muscle memory in your mouth and your vocal cords, alongside the memory in your brain. So when you actually need that phrase in a real conversation, your mouth almost remembers it automatically, without you needing to consciously translate or construct the sentence first. This is genuinely one of the biggest differences between learners who can understand English but struggle to speak fluently, and learners who can do both. And it usually comes down to whether or not they practiced speaking phrases out loud during their listening practice. The fourth step is something I call shadowing. And if you haven't heard this term before, get ready. Because this technique alone can transform your listening and speaking together. Shadowing means listening to a sentence, and then speaking along with it at almost the exact same time, trying to match the speaker's rhythm, their speed, and their intonation, which means the natural rise and fall of their voice. For example, take a phrase we practiced earlier, Could you help me find the train station? Instead of just repeating it after the recording finishes, try playing that phrase again and speaking along with it while it plays. Matching the timing as closely as you can. This might feel strange or difficult at first, and that's completely normal. But with practice, shadowing trains your ear and your mouth to work together in real time, which is exactly what happens in real, live conversation. Let's also talk about a very common frustration that I hear from students all the time. The feeling of understanding a video with subtitles, but then feeling completely lost the moment the subtitles disappear, or the moment they're in a real conversation without any text at all. This happens because reading and listening use slightly different parts of your brain. And if you always rely on subtitles, your brain learns to depend on the visual text rather than fully processing the audio. My honest advice here is to use subtitles strategically, not constantly. Try listening once with no subtitles at all, just to challenge yourself and see how much you can catch naturally. Then, watch it again with English subtitles, not subtitles in your native language, to confirm what you heard and catch anything you missed. And then, for the phrases that were genuinely difficult, that's when you slow down, rewind, and study them closely, the way we've been doing throughout this entire lesson. I also want to address something that I know a lot of intermediate learners feel deeply frustrated about, and that's the feeling that you understand English perfectly fine when it's slow and clear, like in a classroom or in this video. But the moment you're in a real conversation, with fast, natural speech, background noise, and multiple people talking, everything falls apart. Please don't feel discouraged by this, because this is not a sign that you're bad at English. It's actually one of the most normal, universal experiences among language learners at every level, all around the world. The gap between recognizing language in a controlled environment and processing it in a chaotic, real-time environment is completely normal, and it closes gradually, through exactly the kind of practice we've been doing today. Real situations, real phrases, and lots of repetition. One more practical tip before we move to our conclusion. Try to expose yourself to a wide variety of accents and speaking speeds, not just one type of English. If you only ever listen to slow, clearly pronounced American English, for example, you might struggle when you meet someone from Scotland or Australia, or someone speaking English as a second language with their own regional accent, which, by the way, is an extremely common situation in international workplaces and travel settings. Try listening to a mix of British English, American English, Australian English, and even non-native speakers using English as a common language. Because in the real world, English truly belongs to everyone who speaks it, and being flexible with different accents will make you a much stronger, more confident listener overall. Actually, before we close today, I promised you 10 real topics, but I want to give you one small bonus situation as well, because it's such a common part of daily life once you're living or studying abroad. And that's a simple conversation at the bank. Let's imagine you walk into a bank to open a new account. A bank employee greets you and says, "Hi there, welcome in. What can I help you with today?" You might respond, "Hi, I'd like to open a checking account, if that's possible." The word checking account refers to the everyday bank account you use for regular spending, paying bills, and using a debit card, as opposed to a savings account, which is meant for saving money over time, often earning a small amount of interest. Let's repeat this useful opening phrase. I'd like to open a checking account, if that's possible. Repeat. The bank employee will usually ask for identification and some personal details, and might say something like, "Sure thing. Can I see a valid form of ID, like a passport or driver's license?" The phrase valid form of ID simply means official, currently accepted identification. Let's repeat this useful phrase. Can I see a valid form of ID? Repeat. They might also ask, will this be a joint account or just for yourself? The word joint here means shared between two or more people, commonly used by couples or family members who want to share one bank account. If it's just for you, a natural response would be, "No, this'll just be for me." Let's repeat this response. "No, this'll just be for me." Repeat. Once your account is being set up, the employee might explain some basic account features. Something like, "So, with this account, there's no monthly fee, as long as you maintain a minimum balance of $500. The phrase minimum balance refers to the smallest amount of money you must keep in the account to avoid extra charges, and a fee is simply a charge or cost. Let's repeat this important phrase. There's no monthly fee as long as you maintain a minimum balance. Repeat. And near the end of the conversation, they might ask something practical like, would you like a debit card mailed to your address? Or would you prefer to pick it up in person once it's ready? Let's repeat this final useful phrase. Would you like the card mailed? Or would you prefer to pick it up in person? Repeat. And just like that, you've handled a full banking conversation with confidence, understanding not just the vocabulary, but the natural, step-by-step flow of how these conversations actually happen in real life. So, there you have it. 10. Well, actually 11. Real, practical topics that cover so much of what you'll actually experience as an intermediate English learner living your daily life. Whether that's ordering food, asking for directions, visiting the doctor, going through a job interview, calling customer service, making small talk, shopping for clothes, planning time with friends, listening to airport announcements, renting an apartment, or even opening a bank account. I know that was a lot of information, and honestly, that's completely okay. Let me quickly recap the biggest listening lessons hidden inside today's episode. Because I don't just want you to remember individual phrases, I want you to remember the patterns behind them, since those patterns will help you understand thousands of other sentences you haven't even heard yet. First, remember connected speech and natural reductions, things like gonna, wanna, and hafta, which are not mistakes. They're simply how real people talk. Second, remember softened, polite language. Phrases like, would it be possible? I was wondering. And, would you mind? Which native speakers use constantly to sound friendly and respectful, especially in professional or unfamiliar situations. Third, remember confirming and clarifying phrases, like just to confirm and could you say that again, a little slower, which will rescue you in almost any conversation where you feel a little lost. And fourth, remember that small talk, tag questions, and casual filler phrases are not just decoration. They are a huge, essential part of how English actually sounds in daily life, not something separate from real English. I also want to remind you that it's completely normal to not understand 100% of what you hear, even at higher levels of English. Native speakers themselves sometimes mishear each other, ask for repetition, or misunderstand something the first time. Fluency isn't about perfect, complete understanding of every single word. It's about understanding enough to follow the conversation, respond appropriately, and keep communication moving forward smoothly. So please be patient and kind with yourself during this process, because language learning is not a straight line. It's a slow, gradual climb, with good days and harder days. And every single person watching this video, including me when I was learning new languages myself, has felt that same frustration of almost understanding, but not quite. You don't need to remember everything perfectly after just one listen. What I really want you to do is come back to this video, maybe tomorrow, maybe in a few days, and listen again. This time repeating out loud every single phrase I gave you. Because repetition truly is the secret to making these expressions feel automatic in your own speech. Let me also give you a simple challenge for this week, something practical you can do with everything we covered today. Pick just one of the 11 topics we discussed. Maybe the restaurant conversation, or the phone call to customer service, and try to actually use it in real life this week. Or, if that's not possible right now, at least practice saying the full dialogue out loud from memory, playing both roles yourself, the customer and the server, or the patient and the doctor. This kind of active practice, even alone in your room, builds real conversational confidence in a way that passive listening alone simply cannot. And if you want an extra challenge, try recording yourself speaking one of these dialogues, then listen back to your own recording. This can feel a little uncomfortable at first. Almost everyone feels a bit strange hearing their own voice, but it's an incredibly effective way to notice which sounds or phrases still need a little more practice. If you found this lesson helpful, please consider subscribing to English in Fluency, because we release new real-life listening lessons like this one every single week. Always focused on natural, practical English that you can actually use, not just textbook grammar rules. And if there's a specific real-life situation you'd love for me to cover in a future lesson, something like going to the bank, dealing with a mechanic, or navigating small talk at work, please leave a comment below and let me know. Because honestly, this channel exists for you, and your suggestions genuinely shape what we create next. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. I know we covered a huge amount of ground, from ordering dinner and asking a stranger for directions, all the way to sitting across from a landlord discussing a lease. And honestly, every single one of these situations represents a small but meaningful piece of what it feels like to truly live your life in English. Not just study it from a distance. Keep practicing, keep listening, keep repeating these phrases out loud, even when it feels a little awkward at first. And remember, every single conversation you understand a little bit better. Every phrase that starts to feel automatic instead of confusing is real, measurable progress. even if it doesn't always feel that way in the moment. I'm Alex. This has been English in Fluency, and I will see you in the next lesson.